What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/IDontWorkHereLady. This story's called Not Even a Library Volunteer. I have no excuses, I'm on a full-size keyboard, and American English is my only language. I'm also incapable of telling a short story. This is a few years old, but it was memorable enough that my daughter, who just started college, still remembers it. At the time, said daughter, henceforth Sweetie, was 3. Sweetie's favorite outing was to go to our neighborhood library, followed by a trip to the park. We would usually check out 2 books, but she would invariably choose half a dozen, and I would have to read them all to her so she could choose. Some of you may already see where this is going. I sit down on the floor of the children's area, and I'm reading a book to Sweetie. Another child wanders over and looks interested, and Sweetie invites her to sit on my other leg. So I'm now sitting cross-legged on the floor reading a book to my daughter and a little stranger. When I pick up book number 2, I've developed an additional following of 4 more children of varying ages. I would like to take this moment to point out that our neighborhood is majority-minority. I'm blindingly white with my little redhead Sweetie, and all of my newfound friends are varying shades of brown. One of the books is Dora the Explorer that contains some Spanish, and my pronunciation is bad enough that one of the little ones helps me out. I had quite a little circle around me by the time I finished book 6, and they were all very well behaved and thanked me for reading to them. Sweetie picked her chosen 2 from our pile of books, and I got up to leave. This is where it should have ended, except there was Brittany. Brittany, the more pricey, upscale Karen. Intentionally casual hair with overdone highlights that you know she pays $250 every 3 months for. Designer everything, and clearly has a frequent visitor card from her plastic surgeon. Following is the rough dialogue. Where are you going? You're not done yet. The library does have reading time where librarians and volunteers read in the children's area, so this isn't weird yet. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't work here, I was just reading to my daughter. Well, you need to read to my daughter. I was waiting for that rabble to leave. Trust me, rabble was said as if she was talking about the crap on her shoe. You can read to your daughter, and that rabble live here. At which point, I turned to leave to check out my books and head to the park. This is where Brittany truly chose poorly. She grabbed not me, but my Sweetie, saying, "You're staying right here." Sweetie yelled, "Mommy!" And I turned around, grabbed my daughter, and backhanded Brittany on the follow-through. Brittany was enough off balance that she landed on her backside, screeching. Someone had already told security something was up, and they evidently got there in time to see Brittany grab Sweetie. I didn't have to defend myself. Brittany was ejected and banned. Sweetie started referring to this trip as the time Mommy slapped that mean lady. This story's called My Job Didn't Come with the Respect It Needed, Just the Respect It Deserved. I've been running this one around my head for going on a decade now. I was stopping at a local chain grocery store before going to work because snacks. Like many businesses these days, polo-style shirts are the uniform of choice, even for most of the managers. I was dressed for work, which for me was a pair of navy blue slacks, well, basically blue. They were old and faded, but that's the uniform company's fault for being slackers. A white button-front dress-style shirt, navy tie, and ID security badges, but fairly indistinct. I'll ruin the surprise if I tell you any more now, but basically not chain grocery getup at all. A lady comes up to me and asks where I keep my hot sauce. It took me a second to shift gears because I wasn't really paying attention to anything and was pondering deeply important work choices for the coming day, i.e. chips versus bugles. Getting up to speed, I think, oh, this must be settling an argument or something. And quickly, with great confidence, reply, in my cupboard by the stove. It doesn't need to be refrigerated or nothing. She gives me a long, confused look. Clearly, she must be Team Hot Sauce goes in the fridge, if that's a thing. Then she says, "Oh, sorry. The way you are dressed, I thought you worked here." We laughed and I pointed her in the right direction because you better believe I know where the hot sauce is. Here's the thing. Again, polo shirt kind of store, mind you. The job I was getting ready to go to? Airline pilot. I had my little shoulder stripes on, wings, and everything. Recognition like that? No wonder the store manager at the supermarket was making more than I was. No lie, I was pulling down $20,000 that year to fly planes full of people around. Never be a pilot. Wow, that's actually painfully low. What? The amount of qualifications you need to be a pilot, or at least the flight hours you need to be a commercial pilot, I don't know how many exactly, but isn't it like 1,000 or 2,000 or more maybe? I don't know, but that's a ridiculous amount of time for not very much money. There's just so many expenses, like the training, the plane, unless you're in the Air Force that is, but that's a commitment. Well, I would do an old-timey cartoon announcement voice, but I'm too shy. Catastrophic kitchen meltdown. This happened decades ago. I was working as a sous chef officially, but I had been running the restaurant without an actual chef for nearly 3 months when this happened. Of course, this is the restaurant industry, so even though I was doing the work of the chef, I hadn't gotten a raise. I had been working there for almost a year at that time. At the point this story happened, I was still pretty new to the industry, so I was taking a lot of crap that later in my career I wouldn't have. Small town problems lead to it being hard to fill the staff with qualified workers. Most of my workers were kids from the village in the surrounding area. We had lost 3 major kitchen positions within the past 3 months, 2 breakfast cooks and the chef. Replacing the chef was the hardest. But by the time this all happened, I had hired and trained enough of the local youth to be almost properly staffed for the ceaseless kitchen rushes. One very hot summer day, the restaurant was rammed full, and suddenly the power goes out. This meant all the fume hoods and AC was no longer working. The ovens, on the other hand, were still working just fine since they were gas-powered. Roughly 10 minutes into the power being out, I told the head server we needed to stop taking orders. The kitchen was getting dangerously hot. We'd finished the bills we had, but then they had to close till the power came back. Head server said okay and went out to the front to inform the other servers and the owner and manager. Owner comes back to the kitchen, kinda wringing her hands. Head server told me you wanted to close the kitchen? We can't afford to do that. We're full. We can't just turn people away. I understand that you don't want to close, but it's already hotter in here than is legal for people to be working in. I pointed out the temperature on the meat thermometer that was just sitting on the counter. 41 degrees Celsius or 105.8 degrees Fahrenheit. She didn't really reply, just walked back out the door. About that time, more orders came in. So we dig in, wrap damp cloths around our foreheads, and try to work as best we can. It was at this point that my youngest cook, a 14-year-old girl named Karina, parents can sign papers to allow teens to work, passed out while carrying something to the pass. She hit the floor in a huge clatter. I looked at that same meat thermometer that was just sitting on the counter. It was now reading 54 degrees Celsius or 129 degrees Fahrenheit. I picked up little Karina in my arms and told everyone to follow me. We walked through the front of the restaurant, heading straight for the front door. Owner came up to me as I loudly proclaimed, "The kitchen is now closed. We apologize for any inconvenience, but we can't work in 54-degree heat." "No, wait, kid. Back in the kitchen. You can't just walk out. What will I do for food?" At this point, I don't care. I don't work here anymore. I'm quitting effective right now. Cook yourself if you refuse to close. I then turned and headed out the door, my staff all following me. We crossed the street and went right to the river, which we all jumped in. Karina revived as soon as she was immersed in the cool river water. Everyone ended up okay. I ended up reporting the restaurant for the inhumane working conditions on that day. They ended up interviewing a bunch of the staff, all of whom confirmed my complaint, so I don't know exactly what happened, but likely a serious fine. Another restaurant was just opening down the street, so I ended up going there and got my first official chef position. Hired most of my old staff too. None of them really wanted to work for that other restaurant after what had happened that day. The restaurant kept running for a few years after I left, but at this point, it's been closed for decades. Moral of the story, when you depend on people, don't mistreat them, or they might just leave you hanging. Well, I'm inclined to agree with you, but if this subreddit and all these other subreddits are anything to go off of, they'll leave you hanging no matter what. I'm kidding, I'm not some misanthropic little misanthrope. I like giving people the benefit of the doubt. You know, I feel like it might help urge them to do the right thing. I don't know. This story's called Fat Walmart Karen. Want to start this story off by saying that when I do go live shopping, as I like to call it, I mind my own business. I don't ask for help, and if I cannot find an item, I decide I don't need it and move on. I hate public places with people milling about as it raises my anxiety. Kind of funny considering my job. So generally, when I go to a store, I power walk to the areas I need to be in, grab my stuff, pay, and get out. This particular shopping trip was pretty much the same. I walked into Walmart, grabbed a cart, and began my normal routine. It was 11 p.m. I worked odd shifts from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. and shopped at night. So there was hardly anyone there, except for the weirdos. So power walking through was always easy. I got through about a quarter of my list before I realized that someone was following me. When I turned to look, there was an older woman, overweight, with sunglasses on her head and 2 different types of animal print on her body. I give it Fat Walmart Karen. Finally, were you trying to outrun me? I didn't register that anyone would be following me around while I'm shopping. What do you need? Well, it doesn't matter if you were shopping and off the clock. You still work here and you need to help customers when they need help. I just raised my eyebrow at her, then continued my routine. I was wearing a light blue shirt with my company's logo and huge letters on the back and front, as well as long black shorts and black boots, as was my company's dress code. My shirt even had my job title stamped in huge letters below the company logo on the front and back of the shirt. Security. Even though I was in the right colors, they were the wrong hue, and she was an idiot. I had no time for that exchange and wanted to get home so I could eat and sleep. I got a couple of aisles and several more items checked off my list before I felt a stabbing pressure in the middle of my shoulder blades. I slowly turned around to see Karen's long nails in the process of going to stab me again. Do it again and I'll have you arrested for assault. You need to do your job. You need to learn how to read. What does my shirt say? It was like she just noticed my shirt, the logo, and the title. Her eyes grew big before they narrowed again in the typical Karen fashion. Guys, I am short and non-threatening build-wise, so I don't blame her for making the same mistakes as everyone else thinking she can intimidate me. However, she had no idea who she was messing with. I once tore my esophagus screaming to freak another Karen and her husband bad enough to run away from me in Target. Well, it doesn't matter because you are in hospitality and you should help me. I am going to call your employer. You're gonna call an officer of the law to complain that I won't help you in Walmart at midnight after you assaulted me? Go ahead. She was talking over me at this point, so I pulled out my cell phone and dialed the midnight officer. Once I got him on the phone and explained it through her rant, he said, "Sure, hand her the phone." So I did. She went from smug to scared in less than a minute talking to him. She handed me the phone back before hippo-stomping her way to the next aisle. I do not know what he said, but I was grateful I didn't see her again as I finished my shopping. The next night, as I was on my way out, the midnight boss was on his way in. He stopped and said, deadpan, "Was she fat? She sounded fat." Hippo. Well, have a nice night. We are people of few words. Okay, that was a pretty good story. However, I don't see how the fat part has anything to do with her behavior or the story in general, but do what you will. This story's called I Can't Help You. Not sure if this counts, but some time ago, I worked for a third-party company that works in Walmart. My job was to sell and activate prepaid cell phones that were part of specific brands, and those brands only. I worked inside Walmart, but not for Walmart. I couldn't run a cash register, unlock items, or even stand behind the counter. It was also forbidden for me to recommend or activate other brands of phones to people. One day, a couple came in and were looking for the Boost mobile section. Me, not being a pushy salesman, showed them where the display was and walked away so it wouldn't look like I was discussing other brands, just in case my boss came in. A few minutes later, the couple called me over to recommend them a phone, and I directed them to a Walmart employee, explaining that I don't work with the Boost phones. The couple decided on a Boost phone to purchase, and while the Walmart associate unlocked it from the cage, they approached me and asked me to activate the phone for them. I told them that the procedure to activate is very simple, that it is just a phone call to the customer service or a trip to the Boost store. However, I'm personally not allowed to activate Boost phones. They started to get upset with me. I tried to level with them and explain that I can only activate XYZ brands, and that if my boss caught me activating a different brand of phone, I would be fired. At this point, both the husband and wife are yelling at me. The wife is yelling at me that they've had phones activated here before, and that I'm denying her service for no reason. The husband is demanding that I help them because I'm a Walmart employee. I was still calm, but explained that I wasn't a Walmart employee. The wife then demanded I get her a Walmart employee to activate her phone for her. Me having worked this job, I know how much I hated getting volunteered to do things without prior knowledge. Therefore, I didn't want to volunteer a Walmart employee in case they were busy or they just didn't know how to do it. Also, activations were not mandatory. They were privileges. I told the woman she would have to ask the associate for help when he came back with their phone. I could not ask for her. The wife screamed for me to call on the phone for a manager. I told her I don't know how, as I don't know what the number is or how to use the store phones. She screamed at me to go find a manager. I gladly walked away, all the way to the break room for the rest of my shift, which was luckily almost over. Apparently, the husband chased down another associate asking for a manager, and followed him back to where only associates are allowed, saying that he wanted to make sure that I didn't lie on him and his wife. When a manager finally came, she explained that a Walmart associate would activate the phone for them, but that I couldn't because it was against my company policy. The company had argued with the manager about me and how rude I was for about 30 minutes. This couple never bought the phone. No manager ever said anything to me about that incident.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.